This is The Baseline, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Welcome, everybody. You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Man, we got a really great show on tap, man. I am super excited about this one. And I'm sure my man 50 grand, you know what I'm saying, brother from another mother, my man Mr. Warren Shaw, you know what I'm saying, he amped up for this one as well too, man. And even though it will be in discussion for a team who we're supposed to loathe and hate, really can't hate on how this team is acting up right now, like, because they are straight up acting a fool in the NBA, but with good reason, and hopefully with good success. And, I'm not going to waste any time about it. My man Shaw knows right what it's like to be in the belly of the beast for us to be to have this conversation about this particular team, my brother.
Yeah, I think we're at the stage where we just have to respect what we respect, right? And you can run from it, you can fight it, but sometimes some things are inevitable. And it's great for me specifically, to kind of tap into my network, talk to somebody who I've been connecting with here a little bit too, but also allow him to get his takes off. He's got a great platform that he's going to be launching as well too, as we talk about this specific team in the area in which I live. And we all know what it is, man. Time to talk a little Miami Heat. But let you go ahead and do the particulars here on why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, so it's not only because of who we're going to have on to have this conversation about the Miami Heat, but to you, what you're just saying, man, like, listen, this is a team that I think we cannot ignore what they've been doing. And the one thing about our show that I appreciate, y'all, is I think sometimes, like, when conversations are being had about a team or what a team might be doing, we always have to predicate that on what their record reflects, right? Like, remember, the NBA is a marathon, not a sprint, right? And even as we're talking about this in the early stages, we still have to look at this holistically and say, is it sustainable? Is what we're seeing actually real? So for all our efforts, we could be having this conversation and be bigging this team up, and something can crazily happen and crash out, but it doesn't ignore what we're seeing. And I think a lot of this transformation about this team and what they're doing is why it has to be discussed. And to be able to have a special guest on to have that conversation, I think, is apropos. And, hey, man, our man, he's doing his thing on the grind. So in a few moments, we are going to have our man, Paul Londono from Drink Champ Sports, to jump on and have this conversation about the Miami Heat culture and game respecting game, and why they are doing what they're doing. Because right now we are all scratching our heads trying to figure this thing out. But he may know, he may have the recipe for why the Miami Heat is caliente right about now. So great show on tap. We want y'all to be locked in with us. And as always, be sure to get my man at D Warren Shaw or me at GameFace Lee. The show's Twitter handle at NBA Baseline, available on all the major platforms. You can go to www.thebaselinenba.com to not only check us and this episode. And then if you're also catching us on the YouTube channel, we'd like to say hello to you and yours. And when you see the blue and white logo on the YouTube channel, that means it's the 19 Media Group family. 19 Media Group be running these content streets, so you can always check us out at www.19mediagroup.com to not only check us, but also the family of great content creators that are a part of 19 Media. So as we get into things, we're going to have a very energetic conversation about this team called the Miami Heat. But in doing so, got to make sure that our supporters and our partners are keeping you in the know and keeping us afloat. So to let you know, this episode of The Baseline is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the holiday season, best time of the year for sports, bowl games, basketball matches, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day about what gifts to buy, what to eat, what games to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right, and that's on PrizePicks. This basketball season, I've been having a blast making lineups. It's super simple and quick, especially with PrizePicks, because with them, it works as simple as picking more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you get them right, you can cash in. You can even use the new stacks feature to pick the same player up to 3 times in one lineup. like more on Steph's points, 3-pointers, and assists. I've been checking out the projections for Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, and Tyrese Maxey lately, and trust me, seeing your takes hit is the chef's kiss. So, what are you waiting for? Be sure to check out the new feature from PrizePicks that has you getting access to early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you have the ability to cash out on that option for those winnings before the game even finishes. So what are you waiting for? Download the PrizePicks apps today and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. With PrizePicks, it's as simple as being good at what you do. And that code again is CLNS for PrizePicks. So check it out and be on top of your game, because with PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Coming up, Paul Londono joins us. We can talk Miami Heat basketball here on The Baseline.
You've earned this. Now it's time to embark on your own personal adventure. Book your vacation with Exquisite Travel Tours today. Explore the world and discover yourself.
Cal Lee, Warren Shaw, Baseline NBA podcast, and we are uber excited to have on board with us. Our man is doing our thing, man. He is with a team that is rolling strong, not just in the sports media consumption, but just in media in general, man. If people are down with the Drink Champs family, then you know about Drink Champs Sports. And our associate producer, Paul Londono, he's also a co-founder of Crazy Hood Productions, is joining us to talk a little Miami Heat. Paul, welcome aboard. Happy holidays.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
You know what I'm
Glad to be
saying?
back. Shout out to Warren and you. You guys are doing a tremendous job. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be here to share my expertise and at the same time just have fun with y'all guys. You know, with all due respect.
Oh man, listen, we are excited to have you on board as well too, and especially as a Heat champion. And I say that with the utmost respect, because our affinity and love for basketball doesn't extend to our loyalty to being Boston Celtics, but also appreciating the Heat culture and what the Miami Heat has done over the last couple of decades. And it's been hard to find dedicated people, because some fans get a little too passionate but don't really kind of get into the weeds of why the Miami Heat has been as successful as it's been. I'm just kind of curious from you, man. What brought you into becoming a Miami Heat, not just a fan, but also a follower of what the Heat's been doing?
Bro, it is an excellent question. I was having this conversation 2 days ago because in my circle in Miami and where I'm from in New Jersey, to keep it real short, I'm a diehard Knicks fan, bro. I've been a Knicks fan all my life. And my favorite player was Patrick Ewing to this day. I show him super love for everything he did as a person and college player with Georgetown Hoyas. I was 9, 10 years old with my Georgetown Hoya jacket hat. I mean, I'm a Patrick Ewing fan first. And to make the long story short, when they traded him for one other player to Seattle after like 15 years in Knicks organization, I found out at the young age that this was a real business. It was not for fun. The fun part is just watching the excitement, but the business of it threw me for a loop. I was so upset. I took it personal how the Knicks let the franchise player of the decade just go, like just a simple trade, one-on-one trade, and then he retired. And then to make injury to insult to injury, he never even got accepted to get like a coaching job, a training job, nothing from the Knicks organization, bro. So that moves forward to me just saying I'm not watching no more NBA. So I took a pause from NBA for about 3-4 years. Like I never watched anything. I just heavy into college. And then 3-4 years later, I'm starting winning in the March Madness bracket. There's one team was underdog and they will win to the next round. 32, Sweet 16, Elite 8. They went all the way and this team kept winning. And I kept making some bread and they kept winning. And there was a team called Marquette and they had a number 3 player. So when Patrick Ewing got traded in 97 and I stopped watching, then here comes this young guy named Dwyane Wade and Marquette killing it. And then in 2003, which is 6 years of no NBA, when he got traded to the Miami Heat, I jumped in the Kool-Aid, bro. I jumped in the pool. I said, I'm in. So I became a Heat fan in '03 because of Wade, because what he did in Marquette in the Final Four. So all my peoples in New York, New Jersey, Miami, they all hate me now still because they're like diehard fan, Knicks fan, diehard fan. And I just always hated that for them to get traded Patrick Ewing. So then I've been a Heat fan since '03
My
with
man did the New Jersey drive, you know what I'm saying, with the movie rights and everything. I love
right,
it.
facts, all of that. And then it just never happened for me in any other fashion. So Dwyane Wade was so pure and young and energetic. So I ain't got to tell you no more. Like I went through the ring with everybody over here, and now a lot of those people have left the Knicks for whatever reason. The only person that I know still talk good and bad about the Knicks is Stephen A. Smith. But that's how I got into the Heat culture. That's how I got into the whole Pat Riley. I mean, Pat Riley was a Knicks coach, and when he came to Miami, to me, it made sense on that business tip. And the culture builds, and the culture builds, and many other organizations have tried to follow it, but the Heat stayed true to it, and it's proven this season how dope it is. And I mean, it's working. I ain't mad at all at what they got going on right now.
Well, I think that segues us, and I did not know that about you, Paul. We spoke on multiple occasions, so I mean, I think that's dope to kind of know that story. And I think
Right.
as a fan scorned, you know what I mean. You found a
Yeah,
squad that you
bro.
can rock with and kind of keep it pushing. A lot of tales there because Wade obviously has some trials and tribulation in Miami too, but that's for another show, another time, or whatever. So let's get into the reason we brought you on here because Miami is rocking and rolling right now. I've been really impressed. Sale and I did our Eastern Conference preview when we said this, and we'll get into all this as well too. But we're like, damn, this is the type of team Spo might be able to do his best job with, right? And
Right.
it's just he's been so amazing at figuring out whatever the talent is. But we'll talk about Spo a little bit throughout the course of the conversation. But it's the offense. It's the offense. Miami has never been this potent of a team offensively, and I want to play a clip right now from Bam Adebayo. He was on Amazon on Prime a few weeks ago talking about the Heat offense. And then I want to kind of get your thoughts on what Bam said here and what you've seen over the course of the years.
Absolutely.
Everybody feels involved. There's no, we don't run plays.
Yeah.
So it's really just ball movement and being able to execute that and knowing where everybody's going to be because we drill it so much. It's a free-flowing offense for us. So when we get the rebound, everybody knows where's to go. Everybody knows where's to run. And it's just fun basketball at that point.
Fun
That's
basketball.
amazing. That's
right?
amazing.
Whenever you heard in the Riley Heat culture era, the word fun being applicable unless it's winning a championship, or fun because you're punishing the other team because of the physicality that the Miami Heat have always, it's always resonated with the type of players that they've had because they've had hard hat players. You know what I'm saying?
Never. I've
Yeah.
never heard the word fun come out of any player. They all say hard work, they all say discipline, and they all stand behind Alonzo Mourning, hard work ethic dude, or Udonis Haslem, hard work ethic dude, and so on. But I think it's kind of like he's misleading the whole league by saying they run no plays. Now I get it. It's working. They're all running. But at the very end, when he said, when we get a rebound, people know where to go. That's a play. Now it could be an unstructured type of offense where they know that the guards are running the out lanes, the bigs are running the inside lanes, and the ball is flowing. But it's awesome, bro. It's good to see too because there is no ego, there is no pride. The main ingredient from that clip is that he said everybody's involved. So that's special. That's special.
I want to jump on something that you just said, Paul, and more to why Shaw played that clip. I'm glad he played that clip because if you notice, the spotlight is obviously on the Heat team, which is
Mhm.
great because that is really what it's about. But look at the players, the roster of the
Right.
type of players that have been constructed for that type of offense.
Right.
All of them, at some point in their careers, were never considered the number one guy. So they already understand that for their opportunities, they had to put their hard hats on. the Norman
Yep.
Powells, the Bam Adebayos. The only person that I think maybe had been in I guess in a position of privilege is Tyler Herro. But even now, this season, you see a harder work ethic of Tyler Herro adding value to other aspects of the game other than just scoring the basketball. And I think that to me is what's going to kind of highlight a little bit of what Shaw's going to get into about why the Heat are scoring at a ridiculous amount, why their whole form of style of play has elevated, because now you're completely accentuating all of the things that naturally came with what these guys were. They didn't come in as, top scorers in the NBA, coming out of college, top scorers, whatever. They built this up. And now all those other little things that they did, rebounding the basketball, ball distribution, movement on the court, all of that is like second nature for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They're just now doing it with other guys that do it as well too. And to me, I just think that that's what makes it fun for this. That's
Absolutely.
what makes it enjoyable, because all of them are like-minded in what they're asking each other to do, which I think is great.
Yep, and not only like-minded but humble. They all know what hard work means, and none of them are scared to step to it. You said it correctly by saying they put on their hard hats. They got their lunch pails when they come to work. I had a privilege of meeting Norman Powell over the summer here in Miami. The Jamaica team did a workout in this area, and I went with a close friend of mine. Shout out to my boy Steve on Baller Tube. I'm gonna connect Warren to my man Steve. He's dope, but he got a whole situation going on with Baller Tube, and I brought him in so he can do his own documentary type vibe. So I'm gonna send y'all the link to what he was able to accomplish there. But the point is, seeing Norman Powell lead the Jamaica team practice and scrimmage, I was like, dude, this dude is on point. This dude knows how to be a leader. And now he'd been had that, obviously. But to see it in practice on phase where it's not like a structured NBA team game or whatever, like what he did with the Jamaica situation, like those guys are doing something special. They're going to be something to look forward to. But now I see that applied to the NBA professional landscape, and they're all following suit, bro. So it's really cool to see that. But you're absolutely right, man. It's just humble, hardworking dudes that nobody has an ego, and they're having stupid fun. They're having a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, I love what's going on there. I mean, that clip later on goes to show Bam actually breaking down the offense some. And again, saying no plays, like I think you're great, Paul. Like it's a misnomer, because people do need to where to go. It's more of a read and react offense that's still kind of motion based, but they're not utilizing screens. And what was really interesting to me is that Seal and I, we had a conversation last week about John Morant, and like one of our clips, people were asking, oh, should the Heat trade for John Morant? Well, one of the number one reason the Heat should not trade for John Morant is that they are basically running the Memphis offense last year that John Morant hated. Like, Coach Spo went to those guys and said, well, what's going on here, right? And when Ja didn't have the opportunity to run a lot of pick and rolls, he was very unhappy. And that's what's happening here in Miami. So what I give a lot of credit to also for Tyler Herro is coming back here and not trying to mess up the flow, because CL was 1,000% right. You look at this Heat team, with the exception of Herro, nobody's like super comfortable being like, hey, I want to be a 30-point per game guy. Everybody is kind of like, hey, mid-20s, whatever, like I get hot, whatever. But this allows everybody to touch the ball and get hot. Jaime Jaquez playing great basketball. As you alluded to, Norman Powell playing immense basketball. We'll talk a little bit about Norman Powell in a little bit as well, too. But from my lens, watching this Heat team now go from first, now like vault to first in pace and second in points per game as we record,
it's
averaging
amazing.
130 points per game. The Miami friggin' Heat, 130 points per game.
Yeah, and that's real.
Dustin dudes right now. From your lens, Paul, I know we've talked about it, but can you really, really explain how this is is it sustainable? That's the main thing. Can this type of offense, no picks, this level, high efficiency and high scoring, is it sustainable for this Miami Heat roster as you see them constructed?
I absolutely think sustainable. Obviously with everybody's health, that has to be first and foremost, but the main situation from what I see here, just like giving prime example on Tyler Herro, coming into the league as him being a young star out of, Kentucky, right? Am I right by Kentucky? I can't remember. Right?
Tyler Herro? Yeah.
he was put into the forefront along with Robinson and being a lethal shooter. He was molded to be that. They didn't really ask much from him. And then when the Miami culture of the city got to him, he got, into a whole family situation at an early age. So him being a dad and a husband or just a dad at that age, you could see where his distractions and that second year, that third year where people were calling for his head and to trade rumors. And then Spoelstra was able to pull him back, take him over to Japan when they did the Olympics and like just settle him in to now he's a young man and he's coming into it off an injury. And he's just like you said, he's not pushing to be the leader, not pushing to be the budding star. It's sustainable because they all agree and they all understand. And nobody's working less. They're all at top level. They're all working at the top level to secure the W, no matter if it's Bam's rebounds or it's Norman Powell or is Nicola's efforts
Oh,
or
Jokic. Yeah.
yeah, no matter who it is, James is playing incredible ball and he's still young. He came into the league as a powerhouse and he proved it. So it's good to see them all combinations, and no matter who it is either. Andrew Wiggins is my guy. I've liked Andrew Wiggins as a baller when he was in Memphis. So to see that transition I think I'm bugging out. It was in Memphis that he came first, right? Or what team was he on?
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I mean, he was
He
Minnesota. Then he went to Cleveland.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was a monster, just a raw talent where now you could see him being a young man again and falling right into play. I think it's sustainable because the coach believes in them and they believe in themselves with that confidence, and then they want to show the love to the city. They want to show the love and respect to themselves. And for all the naysayers, 130 points average, they're proving themselves that they can do it. And I think they're going to go how far they go. They're going to be a sleeper in the East. At this point, people are starting to wake up, but I think they're going to run through it. New York is a great team, but I don't think Miami. I don't think Miami's going to fall to those guys.
Paul Londono joining us here from Drink Champ Sports, associate producer and also co-founder of Crazy Hood Productions. And be sure you guys got to check them out, man. Got to roll with them. Got them on the Insta.
We working, man. We working.
Yeah, absolutely. Drink Champ Sports, DrinkChampSports is where you're gonna find them. And so Paul, and I know Shaw's gonna kind of move us into the Spo conversation in a moment or so. I'm really curious about something. I don't want to lose this,
Okay.
in our conversation, and I don't understand it. I don't know how the Riley effect, the Spoelstra effect, has permeated to guys where the focus is not on finding, that legendary player, that star player. They become a legend, maybe within the culture, maybe from the team itself.
Mhm.
But like in the annals of the Miami Heat, man, I can only count on my finger, one or two people that are going to go down putting numbers up in those, top 75. Like, but the lineage of great players that have been or worn a Miami Heat jersey has been remarkable to me.
Right. Absolutely. Erik Spoelstra's history, him coming in as the VHS guy, him coming in as the video guy and putting clip together for Pat Riley, and then his growth. People don't ignore those things. He could come and say, I came out the mud. I was the video guy in the video room in the back door, just putting clips together. And then little by little, he was welcomed into a conversation that led to a different conversation, that led to a conversation in the media room, that led to a conversation on the court. And then he developed into a smart IQ basketball athlete. Dude, coach. And then Pat Riley basically knighted him. And then he comes into the den. Everybody just accepts those stories. That's what winning, that's the real culture. There's not one coach in the NBA that was a video guy, but Spoelstra. And now he's USA coach. Now he's potential coach of the year. Yeah, bro. You can't not respect that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into that. I'm gonna play a little clip here too, because it kind of shows about the humility about Spo.
Okay.
He doesn't even know he won 800 games here. So let's take a look at this real quick.
That's classic.
The guy doesn't even know. He comes in there to more or less say, hey, guys, we got another great win. And they're dousing him with water because he's got his 800th win. One of the things about Spo that bugs me out in the NBA, because he is widely considered one of, if not the best coach, especially when it comes to X's and O's, but has never won Coach of the Year.
Right.
And so is this the year, right? Is this the year we finally see that happen with this team? Even if they say are a top 4 or 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, with this kind of, I want to say ragtag, but like this mix of players that is like, hey, all stars on the roster, but not necessarily superstars on the roster, but really leading this roster to what we're talking about historic levels of in terms of the offense. And then not to forget this, while we talked about them being first in pace, second in points per game, they're third in defensive rating. So that Heat identity still has not left them. Like these guys are still D&D'ing things up on the other side of the basketball. Is this year for you, Paul? Do you think Erik Spoelstra can finally win Coach of the Year?
I mean, with what we know about the NBA, you know, good effort falls short if you don't win the big games, you know. So I think he would have to really, they would have to win the East, or if not, get into the playoffs. Not even at like at the bottom half of the Eastern Conference standings. Like if he's not top 4 or 5 going into the playoffs, winning round 1, winning round 2 dominantly, and not just going to game 7 each round. Like to be a dominant team, carry it all the way to the Eastern Conference championship. You know, winning the NBA Finals is the goal. That would definitely seal the deal for him. Getting to the Eastern Conference Finals.
One editor's like one. I mean, it's a regular season award, so it will be decided before the playoffs actually end and going into it. So
True.
I think your point about them having to be a top 4 or 5 seed, you know, but again, does he need to be a top 2 seed? You know what I mean? In essence, to probably.
Well, I mean, if they stay, as we've been saying, if they've been sustainable and they're winning at that top level, I don't see why not. I mean, some coaches are doing a great job, but we wouldn't give it to the Knicks coach. This is his first year, you know, or even though Brown has history, Spoelstra would be a great candidate. He would be the ideal candidate, respectfully, you know, within media and all the other coaches, whoever does the judging. They have to see the effort. They got to see it. Would this be the year? I would say it would be completely dope. And yeah, why not? I would love to vote myself if I had a chance to do it. And that's not taken away from any other coaches. It's just what he's producing, is what's going on the court day in, day night, day out. The win last night against the Clippers was out of hand, and then now tomorrow we play the rookie, you know, in Dallas. So winning consistently, I think might bring it to him. I think he should be able to get it.
Paul, let me help you out. So
let me ask you one question, though, CL, even before you go to that route. Wow, legacy award for Spoelstra. I mean, because like he's never won it. At some point, do we get to a point where, dang, we all know he's one of the best coaches here? So could it also be a legacy award for him at this point as well, too, if they're able to at least be a top 4 or 5 seed?
Yeah, I mean, the big nod of him getting the USA head coach award, that might be like the stepping stone, the shining moment this year, even if they lose the playoffs. But it is a building stone, you know. Legacy award would complement the USA coach and the level that the team is playing. So he's gonna pick up something. I mean, there's no doubt about the fact that he's actually doing it, saying it, proving it day in, day night, and his humbleness. Well, his professionalism. He probably didn't know he had the 800 wins. It probably was in a conversation this week, you know, whoever it was. Him so focused on day to day, him so focused on itinerary agenda, him focused on what the team had to do on tonight's situation. He was oblivious to his own accolades, and that's remarkable, you know. So legacy award, yeah, that would be a complete, you know, salute to him.
Here's my pathway to Erik Spoelstra winning the Coach of the Year award. And I want people to think about this, because we're in the era of numbers, right?
Okay.
So if we look at what the Miami Heat has done from an analytics perspective offensively, right, to what they're doing now, by leaps and bounds. It's almost the same way that we looked at when Greg Popovich, and he had the era of the big three with Duncan, Ginobili, and
Parker.
Parker, right? And then a young Kawhi Leonard in the midst of the heyday of the Miami Heat when they had LeBron James, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh, right? And what they did as a team offensively, which is why it made so much parity for that NBA Finals matchup 2 years consecutively, because this was the evolution of the San Antonio Spurs no longer being a defensive-minded basketball team, but being an offensively efficient basketball team. You may have the same thing taking place here with the Miami Heat, whose their calling card has been defense, has
Right.
been that kind of team where they're physical. But if they keep putting up the numbers that they're putting up offensively, and they wind up landing a third seed in the Eastern Conference, I think it's hard pressed that you don't give him. Like, it would be something clearly wrong with the people who are actually really assessing who should be winning Coach of the Year. You know what I'm saying? And not giving it to Erik Spoelstra, because what he's doing with this team and what he's allowing this team to do and what they're doing on something that they are not known to do for
Right.
this year, to me, will put them in a conversation of being Coach of the Year. And then I think the other thing that's interesting too is, by being in that conversation, so to speak, now we're saying, are the Miami Heat good enough to be up against the Cleveland Cavaliers, to play up against the New York Knicks, to play up against the Orlando Magic and possibly the Detroit Pistons? Can
Right.
they be in that conversation? And if they're offensively that good, to amongst arguably the top 5 teams defensively, minus the, Oklahoma City Thunder out in the West, yeah, this is a great chance for Erik Spoelstra to hang his hat on revolutionizing a team that has never been known to be this offensively proficient in this season.
I applaud you for all of that. I think that is a great way to just isolate his efforts and shine on their win and their playing, because all those other teams, they're all beasts. They're all playing high level. Now in the series, you're right. In the series, I think the run and gun offense, I think the them playing free might carry over into the victories. But you're absolutely correct, bro. I mean, there's nothing for me to say to combat that. I mean, that makes perfect sense for Spoelstra to get the win, to get the hang his hat and get either the legacy or the coach. But it's a beautiful thing to watch, and I just want to see it all play out, because every team is balling. This is the first year in a long time that all these games are high level, high scoring, and playing. It's never been like this for a full decade. Every team is balling, bro, and I think it's good to see that.
Earlier, you mentioned, Norman Powell and his role with Team Jamaica. Shout out to the Yardman team. They just
Yep.
upset Puerto Rico twice in their first ever FIBA qualifiers.
Nice.
I had a chance to interview Norman as well too at one of the after the Heat practices, talking about that experience.
Oh, dope,
And
dope.
one of the things he indicated was that allowed him to be a leader on that roster, because he was the best offensive player on that Team Jamaica team.
Mhm.
And then just learning how to play the FIBA game as well, but just it challenged him in a new way. And then he's also talked about admiring Heat culture, so to speak, for a long time, but not sure if it made sense for him. But he's aging like fine wine. It's so rare that we see somebody, at this stage of the career, been in the league of as long as he has been, and now seemingly is getting better. Like, there's
Right.
just truly an understanding of the game, especially offensively. His ability to drive, his ability to finish in contact, his ability to shoot threes that are 2 or 3 steps behind the line. Like, those are things that a lot of people are like, oh, we didn't really know. Udonis Haslem even said in that prime broadcast, I wasn't familiar with your game. You cold, bro.
Yep.
Why is Norman Powell just now kind of like coming to this realization as this truly offensive weapon that he has turned out to be, especially over the last 2 years, and especially this year in Miami, averaging over 25 a game?
I think the reputation of what the Heat can do. Now that I see Davion Mitchell there, like, these are all players that were a role player, roughly in their respective teams that they came from, But when they have the Miami Heat organization, when they see the Silver Fox and Pat Riley slide through, when they see the young Erik Spoelstra come in, it uplifts their spirits. Gives them that extra breath of fresh air and say, okay, I'm in an organization that expects high level elite professionalism. You know, you can do all the fun endorsements and the intros and the nice, you know, the ambiance of the setting of Miami, like the Miami Beach stroll on the highway clip. Like you could do all these things that's outside of basketball, and that's fun and it re-energizing them. They have the sun. It's sunny here all year long, except during the hurricane season. You know, there's a different atmosphere. They're breathing differently with what they have here as far as the community and everything else. So when it's time to play ball, they know they can play ball. They're professional athletes, but they know that they can elevate. They know that, oh, this means more than basketball in this city. And I'm not taking away nothing from Boston or anybody else. Like I get it. The ingredients, the meat and potatoes of what each organization brings to the platform. But when Norman Powell, Davion Mitchell, like when these guys come and now they're a Miami Heat player, from the fans to the janitor to the ushers to everybody, we love basketball down here, bro. And even and the misconception is that Miami has the worst fans because they leave in third quarter. They just love the game so much and passionate. They don't want to see the loss. We're sore as losers, bro. Nobody likes to lose, but the players want to bring that. And Norman Powell has stepped to the fucking bat to he's on point. He knows that here, if he misses a shot, misses a play, misses an assignment, his man scores on him. It's next play mentality. And let's keep playing. You know, we got a ball to the whistle. And they're all for it. For Udonis to tip his hat and say, oh, you cold? Yeah, bro. I'll bet you if Udonis wanted to be in that locker room and share that, and Norman Powell is not there, but the Bam is there. And I think Norman Powell has re-energized the offensive hole that we thought we were gonna have with no Tyler Hero. Andrew Wiggins can't do it alone. But yeah, Norman Powell is big time. He's the next generation Udonis and Mourning in his own right, you know. If he stays here long term, he could turn into that, you know.
So I'm going to close this out for the most part. And, I've been listening to a lot of different content, a lot of different shows out there. And we're at the quarter port of the season. And, if we were giving out awards at this stage, the Heat have a lot of viable candidates for a lot of different awards. We already talked about Spo as potential Coach of the Year candidate. Bam is once again in the running for, I think, for Defensive Player of the Year. His switchability is absolutely absurd, really being able to guard 1 through 5. Jaime Jaquez, who we've kind of touched on here and there, but could potentially be a 6th Man of the Year candidate, right? And I think Hillel Ware is not necessarily a most improved candidate. He was my pick, but he's also hooping, as well too.
No, let's not forget Ware. That young man is doing his job too.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, like I'm saying, Ware is hooping. He was somebody who I was really, really high on coming in. And now he seems like he might be going back to the bench here now with Herro back and some of the things coming in. But they're getting contributions from Pell Larson and, as you alluded to, Davion Mitchell and Johnson. Like, it really is permeating kind of throughout. My question to you, Paul, as we kind of close here is, do you think this is the year of the Heat? I know you said you're not quite sure if they're going to run the table here in the Eastern Conference, but could this be the year in terms of the awards and the accolades for the Miami Heat organization?
Well, what I go to a lot, what my perspective is, if you don't have a big man, it's gonna be hard. And Ware's doing a great job, and we got a lot of players that can fall into those positions. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the big man game, you know, we've always been undermanned. We've always been undersized, no matter what. Last 20 years, bro, we've never had a real solid 5. You know, whether it's Morning, Bam, Udonis, Ware fits the size, even though he's still young. But I think the style of game that we play is not going to take us all the way. That was proven in 2020 with Jimmy B in the bubble. You know, like those guys had not only LeBron, but they had the big man in Anthony Davis, and it's just you can't as a group effort, it would be miraculous and it'll be dope to see. Like I'll be talking mad shit and throughout the games if we get further and further and further. When we beat Boston with the young Tatum and Brown, like you could see it. Like, but everybody has to be on point. I think they
So
could
do you
get
think a
far.
trade? Think a trade is necessary then? Is that what you're alluding
No,
to?
not at all, man. The Giannis situation, like it's always Giannis coming to Miami. Giannis coming to Miami. What do you think? What do you think? Bro, I think it would have happened already. I think Pat Riley is smart enough, and we always say trust in Pat. There's many questions that we have and critique that we have towards his planning and building, but all of that came to fruition this year where now you see that it actually worked. A trade, bro, if it's not Giannis, who we gonna trade for? Where is doing his thing. So we can get far. The team can get far. NBA championship, woo. I think it's a
That would
little
be the
out of reach.
ultimate. If that would be the ultimate, can't beat them, join them with Giannis,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
I'll open up a
Milwaukee Bucks to the
bandwagon
Miami Heat.
application. I'll open up a bandwagon application. I'll let everybody know they got till June 1st. But I think we're a little bit out of reach only because we don't have a solid, strong five, because then we get Denver out here or we get these ball like this is my personal opinion. I just think we need a strong five that that can that can complement all our runners, all our shooters, everybody. And if they're in a slump or they're getting double teamed, but we can't do it, dump it to the five, let him be the powerhouse. But if we don't have a five, I don't think we're gonna get far, but I don't think we're gonna win.
I
If we
think you. I
do,
think you bring up an excellent point, Paul. I mean, it was a five that prevented you from winning in 2020. It's a five that prevented you from winning in 2022, 23,
yep,
right? When you
yep,
played against the Denver Nuggets. And it's going to be a five that I think may cause problems for the Miami Heat in a
yep.
seven
Every
game
time we
series
play a
against.
team with bigs,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
rough. It's
I mean,
rough.
you play against the Cleveland Cavaliers, you got to deal with Allen and Mobley. You play against
Yep,
the New York Knicks, you gotta deal with Bridges, Towns. You know what I'm
yep,
saying? I mean, I know everybody focuses on the star players and the backcourts for most of the top teams, right? Like SGA, for the Thunder. But if you really think about it, the best of the Thunder is also the efforts that you get from Chet Holmgren and
yep,
Hartstein, right? And
yep.
it's still Jokic, right? And if it's the Bucks, it's still Adetokounmpo. So yeah, I do think that from a matchup perspective, when it comes to the heavy hitters that you're going to be dealing with playoff time, they're going to have a much more formidable front court. To be able to match physicality and also to open things up for Bam to could do what he does because he can't do
Most
it all by
importantly,
himself.
open things up for
Yeah,
Bam and
yeah,
the snipers, But yeah,
yeah,
you're absolutely right.
exactly.
Well, Paul, we appreciate you so much for joining us here tonight and
Absolutely.
talking Miami Heat basketball. Again, CL definitely gave us shout outs, but where can people find you? And what do you have next up with Drink Champ Sports?
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for having me again. You guys, I keep an eye on you guys. I've been keeping an eye on Warren ever since we got on earlier in the year. I appreciate it and truly there's no way I can say no. We might postpone or whatever, but I'm never gonna say no to you at all. But for those, you can follow me at Drink Champ Sports on IG. Twitter is Drink Champ Sports without the S at the end. And I'm available for every conversation, bro. We're working with I've been able to manipulate this whole business, but not just being associate producer of the Drink Champ show, which we're reaching year 10 in March. So
Congrats,
this,
bro.
a lot of
Congratulations.
celebration, a lot going on. We're pushing the envelope forward for our Basel this week. We're I don't know when this is gonna air, but we're doing a live taping with Eric Sermon. So that's keeping us busy and that's
Oh,
keeping us, on the front runners. Shout out to all the other podcasts that are doing their thing. Salute to all of them. We're not haters. We all celebrate the same. But Drink Champs 10 year is coming up. Drink Champs Sports, as far as sports champs, last time I spoke to you, I told them I was buttoning it up and I'm still buttoning it up because there's no way that I could half-ass this, so I'm making sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to be. So then is a complete efficiency, not just a sporadic, conversation here and there, even though that's what we can do with Instagram. But I have more in depth of what I want to present with the sports champs. I also, as as a side venture, I started managing two rappers, Fame Music and Curly J, and we're doing big things on that level of hip hop and the music scene. Those guys are talented, and I'm able to connect all my resources with their talent, and it's a beautiful movement. Miami Meets Miami is a networking event that I created last year with EFN, and that has taken a jump in status because we're reaching out to all entrepreneurs, all not just musicians, but everybody that's somebody that's working in the industry, whether it's entrepreneurial or just entertainment. We've had professors and lawyers, so I'm kind of like spreading myself kind of thin, but everything is kind of moving in its own right. So it's more like it's like a nice motion of 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 grind, of hustle. It all connects, whether it's music or entertainment. So I'm putting it together. You guys are gonna be one of the first ones that I let know where the ball is going, what I'm doing, because I respect you guys for what you're doing, for having me early on, because it's hard to always pick who's going to be the guy that you can spend time with. Not many people like us are going to spend an hour on a Zoom call when we actually are still, growing as far as myself and what you guys are doing. So I appreciate it. But yeah, you can find me on Drink Champs Sports with two S's, Drink Champs Sports. Hit me up, DM, let's talk, let's build. I'm here for it all.
Well said, Paul, man. Well said. And it's just, again, we are always fortunate to be in a space to be able to sit down and have meaningful conversations
Yep.
with individuals such as yourself, with your team, with your peoples, man. That's why we've been doing this for as long as we've been doing it, is to
Yep.
have access and opportunities for us to be able to have those conversations outwardly and positively. And this is even better, too, when you're able to do it in a space where you can appreciate the teams that we love, but also talk about the NBA, the game, the culture in general, and bring it all home. You know what I'm saying? So I just
Yep.
think it's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. I can't say any different. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Paul and Donald joining us here. Baseline NBA podcast. Callie Warren Shaw. Don't go anywhere. We're back. Callie Warren Shaw, Baseline NBA podcast. What a great conversation that we had with our man Paul and Donald from Drink Champ Sports, man. And it's amazing when you sit down and you talk with, we typically have conversations with journalists, we have conversations with book writers, we have conversations with former pro athletes, but we don't have the opportunity to sit down and have conversations with people from within our circle who are producers. Typically, they're a part of, say, the 19 Media Group family, or they're internal, but we don't have the access at times because they're busy doing their thing, right? And it's just great to be able to have a conversation with someone who's genuinely behind the scenes or responsible for a lot of what's going on, and he's able to sit down and express, his affinity and his love for why he follows the Miami Heat, right? And it reminds me about why I follow the Boston Celtics, why you follow the Boston Celtics, or my peoples up here follow the New York Knicks, or like my brother, he follows the Golden State Warriors. Like, it brings me back to what the essence is, the original, story that has to be told in order to remind us of where it started to where we are now. And I think that was great because someone like Paul allows us to be able to see within a very limited amount of time um, how one becomes part of that Miami Heat culture without being in the Miami Heat culture.
Yeah, his origin story, to the Miami Heat is a great one. And I think a lot of different people out there might have similar stories as to why they like a certain team or switch teams. I think even in this case. So his fandom, his appreciation goes well beyond just kind of like the X's and O's of the game. You know what I mean? It's deeper rooted. It's a feeling. Kind of even goes back to the conversation you had with Shea Serrano, like, how does basketball make you feel? And the Knicks trading Patrick Ewing made him feel a certain way, right? And made him not want to root for that basketball team anymore. And then you kind of latch on, to somebody like D Wade, from the Marquette situation, they get drafted by Miami. I think this show was a lot about the Miami Heat's overall progress and success so far this season, but even more so about how they make a certain people feel and how they make a lot of people in the South Florida area feel, and even outside of the South Florida area as well, too. And that's where I think, where our show has so much heart in that of itself too, because we can talk X's and O's, but we talk love, we talk culture of the game. And that's what I really got from Paul's, his experience and his analysis and evaluation of where the Miami Heat are this season.
And I think the other thing too, and again, this lends itself because he has his hands in so many different hats, and they're all attached and tied into the community, right? And I think a part of why we have the conversations that we do is whether or not a professional sports team is truly tied to its community. Is it adopting or identifying what that representation of the community can look like? And I just think it was really good to hear from Paul's perspective about how the Miami Heat has ingratiated itself. Because we can sit here and say, yeah, this is definitely a new look Miami Heat team. But sometimes even with that new look, it doesn't invite everyone to the party. It doesn't invite them to the dinner table, so to speak. Like, people are still trying to find their way. But I do sense that there is an embrace of the cultural diversity that this team brings. And there's an identifiable feel and a spirit within that, even if you're someone who may loathe the Miami Heat, may loathe, Miami Heat fans, you have to appreciate the players that they are opening their doors to and re-inviting, back to the dinner table, re-inviting to the conversation. These are players that in some way, shape, or form, we wish they had some of these guys on our team. Like, we feel like they could do well for our team in some way, shape, or form. But we understand that's where we're seeing the breadth of their success. And I don't want to change that. I don't want to lose what we're seeing from some of these guys, because I do feel like because of what they're putting into for who they're doing it for and where they're doing it, it's hard for me to say they can replicate that going somewhere else. I think everything that's in their past has put them to this path, to this road, to see the quality product that we're getting from the Miami Heat. And that's why I think the conversation about Erik Spoelstra being considered as coach of the year, I think that speaks volumes, because he's taking all those elements and he's allowing it to shine and he's thriving from it, but he's not diminishing it. He's not letting, quote unquote, the past of the Heat culture overshadow some of what this, and maybe in ways it's symbiotic, right? Like, it's adopted some of those things, but it resonates because of how those influences have now been put together. It's all in the pot, and I think everybody gets to eat from it.
I mean, we talked about Miami in the obviously the beginning of the season after media day, and Spoelstra kind of being a little bit more reflective. I talked about trauma that some players seem to have, but for right now everything is working, right? And what he's been able to get this team to buy into and rally around is truly special. And I think what you had said early in the season is like, hey, has Spoelstra basically kind of entered his Greg Popovich era where he's super malleable, and let me truly mold myself in the image of what this team needs to be, not what I want it to be per se. The defensive principles, I think, is what he always wants, but this level of offense, it takes a new level of creativity. And I think all the accolades that he's still getting, being named USA, head coach as well too, like he is a coach's coach. Like, I was even going to ask him at meetings, like, do you ever want to go into the front office? Do you want to assume Raul's role and whatever the case would be? I didn't get to ask that question, but from what I'm seeing right now, he seems like he's very happy and very comfortable in his skin, because he's still finding new ways to develop and to be challenged and what the coaching job brings to him. Like, his acumen and his care for this craft is top notch, and he should be considered. Obviously, JB Bickerstaff is doing an amazing job in Detroit right now too, and obviously Dagamota in OKC. Spo is gonna have a run for the money here, but I would not be surprised and would not be sad at all if he finally got the award that he probably has deserved in years past.
Yeah, and much like this Miami Heat team, ultimately what will probably impede the ability for that trophy to be handed to Erik Spoelstra is what he'd be up against, right? Like, look, if the Detroit Pistons wind up being a 2 seed, I'm just throwing out scenarios here, then it's hard to ignore JB Bickerstaff not being considered coach of the year, right? If the Oklahoma City Thunder go on an impressive 81-1 record, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're gonna have to give it to Dagnall, right? You know what I'm saying? But that's the reason why I brought up what I brought up in our conversation with Paul. Like, is to help accentuate the points that he's taking, because these are things that, you know, the metrics are not going to speak to it, because we're talking about the body of work that is tied to what the Miami Heat has been identified as, you know, within not just the NBA community, but just within the culture of basketball. And for him to kind of break out from it and do it without having, you know, the profile players, without having to mold that singularity, like attaches himself to the wagon of, you know, Bam Adebayo becoming the NBA scoring leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what's going to get him that Coach of the Year award.
Yeah.
But this could be something that does that, which is completely transform the image or the idea of what a team looked like, you know, just 2-3 seasons ago to what they look like now. Like, to me, I would definitely consider him Coach of the Year, regardless of what the records are. They're not going to lose that much for me not to consider it. But I'm hoping that they win enough that we actually take notice of it and actually give him his flowers for it.
The last thing I'll say on this is that, you know, I think what Miami's doing currently could be a true prototype, if you will, for teams who are not sure who, if they have like a lead guy, right? Do you have a super building a block? You have all-star level talent, but do you have a superstar? Do you have a franchise player? And I think this could be something that other teams will be like, you know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we share the ball more, right? Have this more free flowing, at least offensively. You still have to figure out the defensive and the try, in a sense, to be rugged and rough when it comes to the defensive side and rebounding. But the offense can be more free flowing where everybody does touch it, so to speak. And multiple teams, again, if you're void of like the talent, like if Washington now decides, you know what, this offense is working for them, why don't we try to do this until they figure out if they have a true superstar on their roster? I can see this becoming the mold, as we say it all the time, it's a copycat league. And to be interested to see if Miami does kind of lead the way into not necessarily a new era, but a change, if you will, into the mindset of how roster construction is and how modern day offenses need to run depending on the talent you have on the roster.
Last point now I'm going to make sure is that this again is going to come back to the development, the coaching development aspect of what qualifies, you know, great coaches, and may disqualify great coaches. You know, again, we talk about this because there was a time where the emphasis was necessary for those things. But when it's easier when you just have a superstar player that gets it, or you have a star player with a high basketball IQ. The real work, I think, truly begins when we see these coaches actually having an impact on that development, that accelerated development, be it IQ, be it, you know, their ability to play the game the way they're playing it. And I think to see what Spoelstra is doing with so many of these players, not just one or two, but so many of them, including those who are coming fresh off of, you know, maybe career numbers like what Norman Powell just did a season ago with the LA Clippers, and to still be able to do that while still developing himself to be an even more dynamic player offensively for this Heat system, I think speaks more volumes about Coach Spoelstra's influence and style of coaching. And that, to me, I think is part of why those conversations probably are going to need to be had if the Miami Heat are going to be a top 4 team. To your point, maybe being top 4 is good enough to be in the conversation of Coach of the Year. And to me, I think it's a scary thought in a sense, because again, it's not just, okay, this is on the back leg of Coach Spoelstra's coaching career. This could be him turning, you know, into a different, you know, getting into a different place of him developing himself and being this way for the next 3, 5, 6, 7 years. You know what I'm saying? For how he's coaching this Miami Heat team and what that could possibly mean for the organization, you know, and the Heat community altogether.
Yeah, and I think now it's just a matter of seeing if the Heat ultimately decide if they want a big game hunt. Do we just play this out for like we're good with this roster? We got the vibes, we got the culture going. You know, Kelly Ware's kind of coming into his own, as I alluded to earlier on. You know, Bam, Tyler, everybody, like, you know, Norm Powell, Davion Mitchell. Like, there's just a lot of guys here who are just kind of like they get what they need to do. But is there accelerant that they need, in essence, to take that next step that Paul was kind of alluding to, especially with the lack of a true physical big man. Kelly Ware is tall in stature. He's still figuring out his way, I think, you know, from the actual physical side of things. You know, is he shooting threes too much? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of conversations there, but he's putting up numbers. He's rebounding it well. But do they need more of a bruiser that can match up with the Jokic's and even the Karl Anthony Towns of the world, that remains to be seen. But Miami is always going to be in the thick of things. And I think at this point, we have to respect that and know that. Like, this is not a team that tanks. This is not a team that doesn't expect to win. Even if it's unrealistic, they have ambition, and you have to respect the Miami Heat and their organization and everything that they stand for.
Absolutely. Well, again, great episode as always, man. And once again, we like to make sure we extend our shout outs to our boy Paul Londono from Drink Champ Sports. Be sure to check out his show, his peoples and his team's got a lot of things going on. But those guys are doing it big, and he's one of the main reasons why. And again, we are so grateful to have him on board. For the Baseline, Cal Lee, Warren Shaw, we appreciate you guys for hopping on board with us this week. We'll catch up with you next time.